Hello, Central New York. Welcome to Off the Record with your weekly highlights of Delaware County news from The Reporter, the county's finest news source. I'm Andrew Cantor with the latest of what's happened and happening in the county this week. Did you know that podcast listeners can try the online version of The Reporter for free for a whole month? Now you do. A month-long digital subscription is $5, but we've got a $5 promo code, so effectively you get the month for free, and then you can decide if you want to keep getting your local news or you want to remain ignorant and confused. All you do is subscribe at the Reporter website, and that's the-reporter.net. Then you use the promo code SAVE5, that's all caps, SAVE and the number 5, and you basically get the subscription free for a month. After that, we think you're going to want to continue to subscribe, and we hope you do. And now here's a sampling of this week's Delaware County news. The Delaware County Finance Committee is not interested in talking about sharing sales taxes with towns and villages, at least not yet. The committee's members have kicked that can down the road till sometime in 2025. In other words, they won't refer the tax issue to all the county supervisors. Their excuse? They want to see what kind of income tax the new traffic diversion program brings in. And that's a program where people can pay $250 for minor traffic tickets, and then they don't have to get points on their license and go through court and all that. A lot of that money will go to the towns and villages. Well, the members of the Walton Council were not happy at all about the Finance Committee's decision. They point out that the traffic diversion program has nothing to do with sharing sales tax revenue. One council member called the committee's decision bullshit. The others were a little tamer in their outrage, but not by much. One of them wants to shame the committee members publicly. Another wants to be sure that all the county supervisors, and remember, the supervisors are the people from the towns that are going to be losing out. They want to make sure that all those supervisors know what the committee did. The proposal, in case you forgot, by the way, was for the county to share 12% of its sales tax revenue with towns and villages. And remember, the towns and villages are where the sales tax is collected. Some members of the County Finance Committee say the county already does plenty for the towns and villages, and they ought to be happy with what they're getting. In the end, the Walton Council members decided to send a letter to all the town supervisors and council members in Delaware County, as well as mayors and trustees, urging them to move this sales tax sharing proposal to all the supervisors and get it out of that committee. So, should Walton adopt a noise ordinance? How about a noise ordinance that doesn't have specific hours? How about one that lets residents and police decide on a case-by-case basis if someone's being too loud? That is the proposal that will be open to comment at a public hearing on December 2nd, 6 p.m. at the Walton Village Court. If you've got an opinion on a Walton noise ordinance, stop by. 3 school districts in Delaware County are asking for cops in their schools. Well, technically they're called school resource officers or special patrol officers, but basically they're cops in the school district. 4 districts already have an officer on duty, by the way. The county's Public Safety Committee members talked about that, about whether there should be a uniform system of these resource officers throughout the county. Now, having a resource officer costs about $30 an hour, plus equipment, and that includes weapons and vehicles. And all that's got to be picked up by the school district. But those districts, they seem willing to do that. They're still negotiating with the county, so Sheriff Craig Dumond wouldn't say which districts they were looking for these cops. The Public Safety Committee is also working with the State Sheriff's Association to develop a uniform security system across all the county for all the schools, and that would include standardized locks, camera systems, and alarms. So the county public defender, Joe Ermetti, he's saying he thinks the DA's office, or at least the cops, are listening in on phone calls between defense attorneys and the folks they're defending. And just to be clear, that is illegal. This ain't some third world country. The DA's office, of course, says no, they aren't doing that, but Ermetti isn't convinced. He notified the authorities, but, it's the authorities he's accusing. The big problem Ermetti has is that the only people the cops can listen to this way are the ones who can't afford bail. So it's kind of punishing them for being poor as if they don't have enough to worry about. Oh, and he points out that the bail in Delaware County, it's higher than in the counties around us. Armedi also thinks these conversations are actually being used against his clients. You know, when you hear about a jailhouse snitch? Yeah, Armedi doesn't think those are snitches. He thinks that's coming from these overheard conversations when the cops are listening in. Now, County Sheriff Craig Dumond says, yes, all inmate phone calls are recorded, except for phone calls with phone numbers registered to attorneys. And if a call is accidentally recorded, he pinky promised it would be deleted. Ironically, a recording of District Attorney Sean Smith from last November had him saying that, yes, he does listen to inmates' phone calls, but promises he never listens to calls between inmates and their attorneys. You folks have been throwing out a lot, and now it is time to pay the piper. There are some big upgrades coming to the Delaware County Solid Waste Facility. That's going to expand its capacity and give it some upgrades to deal with whatever you county residents are tossing out. The big cost will be the $6 million gigantic rotary drum bioreactor, and that was damaged last year, well, though it is 20 years old. The bioreactor turns a lot of the waste, like 80% of it, into compost, and the rest is put into a sanitary landfill. That compost, it's sold locally to companies like the Cobleskill Stone Company in Hancock. What they do with it, nobody knows. Well, they know, but nobody else. And now we turn to Looking Back. News from the reporter 100 years ago this week.
Breaking news. Sunday, as William Carpenter of Kelsey was walking over the hill to the home of his sister, Mrs. B.B. Chrisman, he saw a large black bear in the edge of the woods. That is all. In crime news, the hardware store of Backus and Scott in Franklin was broken into sometime after midnight Sunday, and the safe in the office blown to pieces by an explosive believed to have been nitroglycerin. The safe contained no money. There was some solid silver in the safe, but this was not taken. The cash drawer was emptied of its contents and about $5 or $6 secured. Also 6 or 7 jackknives. Entrance was gained by forcing up a window in the rear of the store. Catches on the window were broken, but the glass was intact. In the mischief files, Mr. Dibble of Bennettsville was minus his well rope and bucket the day after Halloween. Someone tied the rope to a dog's tail, and it ran away with the whole business. We are informed it left the Dibbles without any way of getting water, as the well is very deep. In horrific accident news, Charles Zink, one of the proprietors of the Riverview Hotel, was thrown from M.S. Townsend's truck near Kent Brothers store Tuesday morning and sustained a Colles fracture of his left wrist and concussion of the brain. Zink was riding on top of a load of hay, and as the truck made the turn from Gardner Place into Delaware Street, he was thrown off the load. He struck his head and hands on the macadam. In addition to the fracture of the wrist, he sustained a bad cut on the forehead. Dr. W.G. Smith was called in attendance.
Back in 2024, there's a lot more Delaware County news in this week's edition of The Reporter. You can read about how Walton trustees gave their official support to a possible expansion of Delaware Valley Hospital, and how 4 cannons were reinstalled at the Soldiers Monument at Courthouse Square in Delhi, and how having Narcan available has saved a lot of lives in the county. And all that's just for starters. Remember, to get all the news that matters to you and your Delaware County community, subscribe to The Reporter at the-reporter.net or call 607-464-4009. We'll see you next week.